What's going on, everybody? My name's Tim, and this is an episode of Build It with Tim, where I'm taking your suggestions for ideas of apps and features and different modules, and I'm going to build it live on the fly. Today, we are going to be working on a booking calendar. Okay, so the suggestion was, how do I build a booking calendar? The idea behind this app was to basically display different time slots that users would be able to select from. And once that time slot is selected, it's no longer available for anybody else to pick. And when we're done, we're going to have an app that looks and functions something like this. So we're going to have a list of schools where we can view details of that school. We can see the teachers that relate to that school. We can see their available time slots, and we can submit a form in order to add a new booking record, or in this case, a reservation for this particular time slot. Okay, so the three main features that we're going to be working with today are the form component, connection fields, and dynamic filters. All right, so let's just jump right into this app. I got a blank app ready to go, and I'm just going to start working through this and thinking through this. Okay, so the idea that I was given was we're going to have schools. Okay, and we're also going to have time slots that are available, and then teachers were going to have time slots available to choose from, and then parents could go in and choose a time slot. Okay, so we're going to start off pretty basic here. We're just going to add one user role, and that's going to be teacher. Okay, so we could add a data table here called teachers, right? If we wanted to list all the teachers, but if we wanted to give teachers the ability to log in to this application and actually create their own time slots, then I think it would be best if we actually keep all of those people records inside the users table, since that's where all the login information is going to live anyways. All right, so let's just go ahead and let's add a record here. So we're going to add a user record. In this case, it's going to be a teacher. So we'll just call this teacher one. We'll just give a simple login here for testing later. And they're going to be a teacher. Okay, so we have that. That's fine. Now we need a school. How about Los Angeles High School? Sure. Don't know if that's real, but it doesn't matter. So we have a school name. We have a teacher. Okay, now the idea with the time slot here is we're gonna connect this to at least the user. We may end up connecting it to the school as well, but we want to build a relationship between the time slot and the teacher, right? So when a teacher has a time slot, that implies that the time slot belongs to the teacher. That's essentially what a connection is. So we're going to go into fields and we're going to add this connection field, right? And we're going to connect a time slot to a user. We're going to display the user name, and we can call this teacher. Okay, so for now, we could leave this, but I'm gonna perhaps overbuild this a little bit, and I'm also gonna add a connection to the school. Okay, and I don't think we need the time slot name. I don't know if time slots will actually need a name. They're probably just going to be referenced by the actual date and time that the time slot's for. So we'll do those three fields right now. And the fourth field that we're going to add here is, we'll call this status. And we want to know if the time slot is available or unavailable. Okay, and we'll add some color to this as well, just to make it look a little nicer. Okay, so now for every single time slot record that gets created, it's going to have a date and time. It's going to have a relationship with a teacher. It's going to have a relationship with a school, and it's going to have a status of available or unavailable. Okay, so let's move on to the page builder for a moment. So I typically like to just as an aside here, I typically like to start building the data structure in the most kind of basic way possible. and then moving to the page builder to start framing out the how the actual app is going to look, right? So let's just add a page for schools, and this can be a table, and we will include a form to add new schools, and we'll include a link to view more details about the school. Okay, let's also do the same thing for teachers. Basically, I'm just going to make a page for each of the tables that we have. So in this case, the teachers is actually the users table, but we'll just call it teachers since that's what makes sense for our app. So we're going to select users, and we'll skip the form to add new users. We'll just do a link to view details of the user. And the last one we'll do for now is time slots. And we'll do time slots, yes and yes for add new and details. Okay, so let's take a look at this and see what we've got so far. So we're going to just preview this page, and we're going to see our schools, okay, teachers, time slots. Cool. Okay, and one more thing I want to just do before moving on. I'm going to go into my menu, and I'm going to change this to vertical. All right, so now our app is going to look like this, and that all looks good to me so far. Okay, so we're back in the builder, and the next thing we need to do is we need an actual way to create and save reservations. Okay, so we have our three tables. We have the users table, the schools table, and the time slot table. We could potentially save a reservation on the time slot record. And what I mean by that is we could add a field to collect the parent name, the parent email, and the child name that we're looking to reserve a slot for. But I think the better approach here is to actually add a whole new table. Okay, so this new table, we're going to call this bookings, okay, because this is specific to the actual booking record itself, right? We want to keep the time slot record separate. We want to keep the school record separate. We want to keep the teacher record separate. And we want our booking record to be separate as well. So we're going to create a new table called bookings. And this table is going to mostly consist of just connections. Okay, so we're going to have a connection to let's do the time slot first. So it's going to be a connection to the time slot. It's going to be a connection to the teacher. Okay, so again, we'll display the teacher name and we'll call it teacher. It's also going to have a connection to the school. And now that I have those three connections, I can actually get rid of the booking name field. All right, so now whenever a new record comes in, it's going to have a connection to all three tables. So everything is going to be separate from one another. You can see this is what the graph looks like here. And this is commonly referred to as a join table when you have a table like this that connects with multiple other tables as its sole purpose. So what did I mention before? Oh, right, we need a field for the parent name. We need a field for email. And we need a field for child name. Okay, so I think that's fine for this table. It should be everything that we need. Um, let's move to the page builder and think about where we're going to place this. Well, we're going to use a form. We're going to use a form component here to allow parents to submit a new booking record. So that's something else I wanted to mention here, that if we did just try to utilize the time slot record, so if we added, parent name here, if I could spell parent name, and we did child name and email on this record, then what we would actually be presenting to the front end user is the ability to edit this time slot record and not create a new one. So what we really want is somebody to create a new booking reservation. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that third table, or fourth table rather. Okay, so now where to put this form to add a new booking record. So we could do, it's going to go on time slot details because the booking record is most closely related to, in my opinion, kind of in my perception of things, it's most closely related to the time slot. That's really like the primary connection that we have. Um, so it's going to go on time slot details. Now, I want to just take a brief moment to explain something, and hopefully I don't confuse anybody. But we have our three parent pages. We have the schools, we have the teachers, and we have the time slots, and then they each have their own details page. Okay, on the school details, we could add a table to display the connected teachers. Okay, and then from there we could add another details page that would show the connected teacher time slots. But that would start to build our page hierarchy in a way that is not necessarily what we want. And let me just actually do it so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to have our teacher details with a details page. And then on the details page, we can have connected time slots. And then this would also have a details page that would take us to the time slot details where we could add a form to insert a new, add a new booking record connected to this time slot. Okay, so if we go that method, if we use that method, you can see this kind of cascading list of pages. And generally speaking, we don't want to have this many sub pages. It just can cause problems down, as you continue to build your app or scale your app. It's generally not recommended. So I like to just keep a single details page, sometimes a third, but usually or a third page, but sometimes just most of the time just one sub page here. So I'm going to undo what I just did. And we're just going to leave it like this. Now, what we can do instead is on the school details page, we can keep this table of users. We can get rid of the details link, but we could actually use a connected page to get to the user details from the teachers page. So this way, on school details, we're actually, we can use this user details connected page link to bring us to this user's details page. Okay, rather than make a new one underneath school details, we can add a link, connected page link to bring us to this move. So this is kind of like more of a lateral navigation as opposed to going deeper and deeper and deeper through multiple subpages. Okay, now on this details page, we can also do time slots. And then we can do the same thing where we can add a connected page that's going to go to time slots and time slot details. Okay, again, a lateral navigation move to time slot details. And then we're going to actually put the form to insert a new booking record here. So again, I'm sorry that may have um, been confusing, but it's going to work out in the end. So let me show you what that looks like now. If we start from the schools page, okay, so we can go from schools. You can see the breadcrumb trail here, schools, school details. And then if I click on user details, what it's actually doing is bringing me to the details page of the teachers page. Okay, and then I can click on time slot details. And again, watch the breadcrumbs. We're just moving to the next details page based on the different parent page here. So time slot details, teachers, teacher details, schools, school details, and then we've linked all those detail pages together so that we can shift through them when we need to, while still just utilizing a simple page structure. All right, so back on track here. What we need to do is we need to add a form on time slot details that's going to allow a user or a parent in this case to submit a new booking record. Okay, so I'm just going to put it right next to this detail component. So I'm going to resize this column, and I'm going to add a new column. And here I'm going to add my form to do a new booking record. And we'll just do a quick add for now. Time slot details. Okay, and I need to go back and I need to save that. Just a moment. Okay, so we have our form now. Sorry about that, where we can now book. Okay, so let's see. We can actually take a lot of this information off, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so we're on time slot details. So we do not need to select the time slot because we are already on the details page for this particular time slot. So this is going to be handled by default because of the data source option that we chose when we selected this. What I mean by that is here on the time slot details page, here's our booking form. When we added this form, we picked the one that said add a new booking connected to this time slot. So by default, by nature of this form being on this page and the data source that we picked, it's automatically going to be connected to this time slot. Okay, so we actually don't need the time slot. Let's take that off. The school and the teacher, we actually don't need either. And that is because, here, let me do this. This is all we need. So we'll just put on the parent name, email, and child name. And we can say, we can actually rename these to say your name, your email, and the child name. Because when we set up this booking, well, both the time slot and the booking records, because they have all of these different connections. So when we insert a connected record from a time slot, so we've selected a time slot, it gets added here as a connection for a new booking record. We can actually reference the connections from the time slot record. So when we pick this one, we can actually select, or we could have an automation that's going to go find the school, find the connected school, and find the connected teacher. Okay, and I can do that right here in table rules. So if we say on create, we're going to set the teacher to the connected value of the selected time slots teacher. And we can set the school to the connected value of the selected time slots school. Okay, now if I show you that on the back end here without the form, we have time slot, we have a teacher, we have a school, parent name, Billy, we'll call him Billy, and this is going to be my email address. The teacher and the school were populated automatically. Wait, no, I did that wrong. We have the time slot. Let's do this again. Sorry. It'll still be Billy. Okay, and then we'll do Tim at Tadabase.io. Same result. Okay, so I'm sorry, I got carried away and selected all the connections the first time around. This time around, I only selected the time slot, and I was able to pull in these values through the connected time slot. From this record here, I was able to get the teacher and the school and save them into these connection fields here. Okay, so let's go back to time slot details. So we have this, we have the your name, your email, child name, that's good. I think that's all we need for now. So if I go back here, and we'll just test this from the front end as well. Okay, I've booked. Here's the next problem. So you can see the available still, or the status still says available. So anybody else could go in here and select this, and then we'd have overlapping bookings or conflicting bookings. So what we could do is we could set up some validation rules, but the easiest thing I think we can do is to actually just update this status field. So let's go ahead and do this now. All right, so on our time slot details page where we have this form, I'm going to do two things actually. I just remembered one. One is I'm going to hide that link that takes us back. I'm going to get rid of that. And here inside the rules, I'm going to add a new rule and I'm going to say update the connected time slot. And we're going to set the status to a custom value of unavailable. So now every single time I fill out this form for a particular time slot, we're going to click save and it's going to update the status to unavailable. Now back at the builder, we need to modify this parent page here, this time slot details, or not the time slot details, but the time slot page, the one that's showing us all of the time slots. We are going to now add some filters. Okay, so if you open up the table component, right away you're going to see there's a tab called filters. That's not what we want. This is for filter tabs at the top of the table that will be predetermined filters that we can click on in order to change the data set that we're currently seeing. There's also an option within here to enable filters. These are user created filters. So on the front end, on the live app, I could go in and I could add a filter of my choosing and I could delete that filter of my choosing. What we want to do is actually go to the data source and filter. So we want to filter the data before it ever even loads, which is what this does. So we're going to set a filter here and say we're only going to show the records when status is available. So now when I go back to this page, you're going to see I have no time slots that are visible because I filtered out all of the records that are not available. So if we add a new one here, available, it's going to be available. And then I can go to this, I can book it. It's going to become unavailable and it's no longer here for anybody else to select. Okay, everybody, I think that just about does it for this little app or this little module or whatever you'd like to call it. As far as user experience goes and how you can get your users to interact with this, how you want to build out the pages. I think that's a whole new conversation that I'd love to have sometime. So, if you're interested, again, these are all going to be community suggestions, user suggestions. So if somebody ever wants to come back to this and say, hey, I want to see more about the booking calendar. How can we make it do this? Then I'd be happy to dive back into this app and continue building. But I hope for now, at least you kind of understand um, the basics of the method that was used here with a join table to hold all the reservations, time slots for teachers to create time slots, the connections between time slots, teachers, and schools, all of those relationships, and then some of the basic page functionality with, dynamic filters and the form component to insert connected records. That was really the point here. So I don't want this to drag on for too much longer. Thank you for watching, for the time that you've spent so far, and I look forward to the next one. Take care, everybody.